3, 2.
Mr. Morgan Barron, welcome back to the show, brother. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was saying on the intro, you were on this podcast when I was in my mom's basement. So 3, maybe 4 years later to have you back,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. It's good to be back. And like I said, the studio looks awesome. You guys did a lot of good stuff with it. So
Appreciate
cool.
it. How are you?
I've been good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Life's good. It's obviously just getting going, kind of my summer routine now, and everything's getting back to normal. And a little bit of a chaotic few days, I guess, for everybody in Nova Scotia. But
Yeah.
obviously, other than that, it's good to be home, and hopefully we can kind of move past this fire stuff soon.
Is your family safe? Are you safe?
Yeah.
Everyone?
Yeah, we've been fortunate in terms of the area we're in. We've been lucky, but it's crazy. The hockey community's small here, so know lots of people and guys in the gym we're working out with and stuff who's had their homes burned down. So it's terrible. It's too bad. Kind of a grim note to start the podcast on, I guess. But.
Yeah, I mentioned something at the beginning before we started at the intro. Just there's like the hockey community's really, don't get me wrong, the community in general is great here, but the hockey community is great as well.
Mm-hmm.
People are coming together to donate hockey gear to people out in Tassa community that lost their hockey gear in fires.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that people are just coming together just to make sure that we rebound from it. It makes you feel a little bit more proud to be from here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing.
But after the season, what did you do? You said you were in Europe?
Yeah, I went over to France for a couple of weeks. And,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I went over with a few guys on the team actually, and then my girlfriend came over for a little while. So it was nice to get away from everything for a bit and unwind. I feel like that's kind of an important step in the process before you get going and get right back into the grind, because really it doesn't stop once we get training for the summer. It picks up pretty quick again. So I just took a couple of weeks off, and it was nice just kind of break up the off season.
For sure. Speaking of just like, the grind of it, how did you find the Canadian media compared to the American media during the year?
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice a difference or no?
Definitely a little bit. I mean, even I never say I was in like New York full time, like I was obviously up and down a lot that year I was there. So there's bits and pieces I got of it, but that's a pretty intense media market in its own right. It's just different because it's the size of the market in Winnipeg especially is a lot smaller, but hockey's the main focus there, where, in New York, you got a million different things going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, you're center of the spotlight a lot. And when things aren't going quite as well as you would like them to go, you definitely hear about it from the media and people talking about it and stuff. So you try your best to just kind of push it off and not worry about it too much.
Did you get any advice at the beginning of the year from Bones, your coach? He's from our backyard here. Was it nice having that figure there as your head coach, or is it not really a friendly relationship? It's more of a coach-player relationship.
I think you ask any of the players who have played for Bones, or ask him, like, I think he would say all his relationships are friendly, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like very, very communicative, like in touch, wants to get to know you. Actually, he just called me there today to make sure my family's okay. So it's like little things like that. I think it goes a long way for being comfortable around a coach. And I mean, there's obviously a balance between, having that relationship with the players and also being able to hold them accountable. And for me, I thought he did a great job of that. Like he was a blast to play for. And, obviously things didn't end the way quite we would have liked them to, but, I know it's a challenge for him, and he's just a real good man. So it was a pleasure to play for him, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next year.
Arguably one of the most experienced, if not the most experienced coach in the NHL. I don't know anyone else that has. I think has the most.
I think it was like 2,600 games behind the bench, which is like an incredible accomplishment. Like it's a lot of hockey, and then obviously he played for a while too, so it's pretty cool.
To be in that league for that long, that's something you got to look up to for sure. That's great.
Absolutely.
I was looking at your DB before you came here, and you had 70 games played, and even going back to Cornell, even before that, you've never played like 70 games played in 1 year. That's a lot of hockey. How did the body, the mind, everything hold up during the season?
Yeah, pretty good, all things considered. I mean, it's definitely a grind, but I think you come to appreciate the other part of it is like the practices aren't quite as long. Obviously, in the NHL, you get the top of the line treatment, so anytime you need anything, they're looking after you very well. So, it was just a blast. Like it kind of feels like, for me, like you said, my seasons at Cornell, for example, were like 30 games, 35 games maybe. So, kind of felt like I played like 3 whole different seasons, right?
Really?
Yeah, just when you break it up at Christmas and then kind of the All-Star break, I can almost like segment it in my mind. But it was fun, man. Like it's every other day you're pretty much going for a game, and if you have a bad game, it's great because you have another game in 2 days, right?
Yeah.
So that part of it I really enjoyed. It was a good challenge, and yeah, it's tough for the body to hold up, but all things considered, to get in 70 for me this year was pretty good. I was out with a little hand injury at the start for a little bit, but aside from that, there wasn't any major hiccups. So.
Is it true that when you're going through a regular NHL schedule, you don't know what day of the week it is? It's just game day or not game day? Is that true?
No idea.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes weekends you might know or something like that, but very confusing in terms of the days of the week, or even like I mean, I was always bad with knowing like the date, the actual like numbered day of the month, but that stuff gets it's just, there's a lot going on, and especially our travel in Winnipeg is pretty intense with the Central Division. It's a little more flying than you would get on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So I know if it's a travel day, a practice day, an off day, or a game day.
What are some of the routines that you like to get into when you have a 70-game season? You know, it's a little bit tougher when the seasons are shorter, but 70 games played, you must have a little routine.
Yeah, I do my best to mix it up, to be honest. I mean, you see some guys who have the same ritual, you know, every game day, and it's I feel like I used to be like that in college when it's 30 games and you want to, you know, you're waiting for Saturday or you're waiting for Friday for your game, and then you know your routine you're going into, but it gets old after 70.
Does it?
So yeah, so I would always try to mix it up. I mean, you're waking up at the same times, and I'm a big napper on game days too, so I usually shut it down for a couple hours, which is always nice. But you know, similar foods, I guess, would be another one. But I mean, even for me, it was like the practice days, because you know, as busy as we are, sometimes you get home and it's like 1:00. And, you know, you got to fill the rest of your day with something, but you're also exhausted from the games and the practices. So for me, it was always, I love being in Winnipeg for many reasons, but the time zone is awesome for watching sports. So it'd be like, especially if Justin was playing 6:00, his game would come on and I can kind of cook dinner and do that. So I guess my biggest routine was probably doing that, watching a little hockey and being able to cook and, you know, get into a routine that way. And it sometimes felt like those meals were few and far between because you're so busy on the road and stuff. But that was always nice for me to kind of settle in.
Was there ever a debate this year between the Barron family of why are you going to Justin games more than Morgan's games because he's a little bit closer? Was there ever a, come on guys, you got to fly out to Winnipeg?
Yeah, they came out a few times. My parents did. I understand it. Montreal's a pretty cool city, and it's close. It's an easy flight for them. So they have a direct flight to Winnipeg, Halifax.
Oh, do
that
they?
route in the summers, but not in the winter. Believe it or not too many people want to fly out there in the middle of the winter. So yeah, it's a little tougher for them to get there. But they came out and got to a few games for both of us and got to see us play against each other, which was fun.
What car are you driving out in Winnipeg? You must have something big to get through the winter.
Yeah, it was actually a little truck. It was like a rental I had this year.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, it was actually pretty mild winter by Winnipeg standards, I guess. It was pretty intense for what I was used to, but no, they do a good job plowing the roads. And if my truck can't get through it, somebody else has a bigger truck that can, so you kind of do that.
What's the room like in Winnipeg? You know, being out there, I guess you have to have you know, a close community of guys within the team to I guess come together. You said the hockey team's the only team out there. It's the biggest show in the city. Yeah. Is it nice just to have a good group of guys? You said like New York, you have so many other things to do. Maybe the team's a little bit separate. Yeah. Was it nice having a close camaraderie with the group of guys? Yeah,
it was fantastic. And like even going on the road, right? Like everybody's out and doing stuff together and happy to be around. And if you're in Florida or Vegas or wherever, you get a chance to get some sun. So it was an awesome room. It's a good mix of older guys, younger guys. You know, I think you probably get some dressing rooms of teams that are maybe rebuilding and it's all younger guys, or teams that are really filled with vets and stuff. But I loved the mix we had. Lots of awesome guys, and you know, people you look up to, and guys I've been watching play for a long time, right? So it's pretty cool to get in there and just get to know them and really get to know them on a personal level. And for me personally, like the difference between not going up and down a lot throughout the year, like actually being settled in and on the team for the full year was awesome, right? You get to be around the guys. You're not missing experiences or stories or whatever it is. So it was pretty cool.
How do you go through that in your head during the year? Was there a conversation with a coach, with your agent? Like, look, Morgan, you're here to stay. Like, how did that go about from the behind the scenes aspect?
Well, it was the first year I made a team out of camp, right? So you kind of know you're and everybody's healthy in camp, generally speaking. So you kind of know you're in a spot. You never get too comfortable, but you have a general idea, right? Like if you're struggling for a week or two, then maybe you know it's time to go have a conversation with someone or whatever it may be. Or you know, when you're playing well enough, you're in the lineup every night. You know that things are going well. So you know, it was never really too much of an issue for me in the back of my head this year. I was always confident enough that I was going to be there to play, and that I was contributing in meaningful ways. So it was was a lot of fun just to carve out a role and, you know, really feel a part of it and be supported by all the guys in the room. It was pretty cool.
How do you look at it? Do you look at it like a reward for all the hard work you've put in over the past, your whole hockey career? Or did you look at it in a different way? Like, how did you approach it?
You know, it's funny. I probably haven't really reflected on it as much as I maybe should or could have, right? Like, things are moving so fast. And, you know, there's definitely times where you kind of look around and realize, like, this is the dream that I've been wanting to get to my whole life. And this is the first year where you kind of live it full time. You're a part of it all the time. So, you know, maybe it's a good practice. I should do some exercise, kind of reflecting on my gratitude for that. But things move so fast, you almost don't think about it too much.
I like it. In terms of like professionalism, I've heard so many quotes. Like we talked about routine a minute ago. Some people love a boring routine. Some people like to switch it up, whatever it may be. In terms of like professionalism and being consistent throughout the year, what's one thing that you learn from maybe a teammate, a coach, whatever it may be, of just keeping your games consistent?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've probably learned more from my teammates this year than I ever thought I would, right? Like, so many guys we've had multiple guys in our dressing room who've played 1,000 NHL games, and guys who have been, you know, really high picks and have had these taking off at the beginning of their careers, right? And guys who were late picks or undrafted and worked their way through. So it's really like I found this year was awesome for just being able to gather so much information from guys, and whether it's even a tidbit or a little anecdote from someone. And
is it more watching or is it asking? Like,
it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like a casual conversation over dinner where somebody talks about, you know, a certain teammate they had or a coach they played for, right? And there's so much stuff, but you know, I think for me the biggest thing was like just always trying to find a way to make an impact on a game, right? Like I feel like there was times in my career where it's like I go out there and I play a game and I don't do anything bad. I didn't have any turnovers, but I also didn't do anything good, didn't do anything to stand out. You know what I mean? And it's easy to get stuck into that, especially when you're growing up and down or you're trying to break into the league or whatever it is, trying to get scouted, and you're just like, I don't want to turn a puck over. I don't want to screw this up. And for me, that was a little bit of a learning curve of like, listen, you got to find a way to make a difference in a game, because at the end of the day, if you're just one of those players who's going out and skating up and down the ice, like there's 20 other guys in the American League who can do that, and there's 20 other guys in the East Coast League who can do that, and they're all over the place. So that was a learning curve for me, is just really trying to figure out a way to make an impact on a game one way or another at all times. And, you know, there's some spurts of the season where I really felt like I did that, and others where you kind of get into a little bit of a rut. But overall, looking back on it, I think that's a lesson I'll kind of carry with me for the rest of my career.
That's great. Really well said. I like that answer. Yeah. Post-game workouts. Yeah. What are the point of those? What does that do? I've seen them a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's different for every guy. Some guys go in there and love throwing weights around. Some guys will go in and just kind of get on the band work. And, yeah, I think it's just a way to kind of keep the body fresh. And it almost sounds like counterintuitive, right? You just played a game and now you're going to go work out. But I wouldn't say they're grueling workouts all that often. Sometimes if maybe you didn't play as many minutes as you normally do, you might get on the bike and just trying to keep your cardio at the level. But our season's so packed when you're playing 82 games that, you know, there's not like a 3-day break and you can get a good workout in the middle.
Yeah.
Or if you have an off day the next day and then you have a game right after that, the day after, then it's like you don't want to come in and ruin your only off day where you can really get a chance to rest. So I think it's just really more so trying to stay healthy, right? Like you're not really getting stronger in most cases during the season. Most of that work would probably come in the summer, but you're trying to maintain and stay healthy.
What about like weight? Do you try to like maintain your weight? You're a big boy.
Like
what are
physical
you?
weight?
Yeah, well, no, like, yeah, I guess sure.
Like,
but like
when I'm stepping on the scale you're talking about?
Like the scale. Like I've heard at the beginning of the year you could be 250, then by playoffs you're just 2 on the dot.
So I actually go the other way. I usually put on weight during the season. I'm not sure why. I'm about 220 right now, and I'll creep into the 225 to 230 range sometimes during the year.
Whoa.
Yeah. Guys tell me I don't look that heavy. I think that's a good thing.
Oh, you look good.
Yeah, I usually surprise some guys when I step on the scale, but I mean, I also eat a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit more. I eat a lot more during the season. Like sometimes I'll make up a plate at the start of the summer of like just out of habit the same portions I would eat during the season, and I get halfway through it and I can't do it. So burning less calories, I guess, right now than you would be when you're playing games and practicing and all that stuff. So maybe that's it. But keeping the weight on hasn't really been an issue for me.
I skipped the question. Hence the workout after the game. How much time do you have in between the game's over and you got to be on the plane to go to another city? How much time is in that period?
It's pretty tight.
So then that workout's quick then.
Yeah, it's literally like get undressed, get in the gym. I mean, sometimes it's literally like 10 or 15 minutes and try to do something. And if it's a back-to-back, you're probably not working out. You're just stretching or doing whatever you need. Sometimes you might need to get treatment. But things move quick. Like you're probably, from the time you might have 40 minutes to get undressed and do your workout, stretch and shower and change around there.
40?
Yeah. And if you have an off day the next day, it might be a little more time, right? It always changes, but I would say that's probably 40 to an hour.
Was it interesting going into MSG this year wearing another jersey?
Mm-hmm. I actually did at the end of last year too. I got called up. So it was, it was a little bit easier this year, I think. And they've had turnover there. So there's some guys you know and some guys I've never even met. And but it's fun. Like it's a fun place to play. It's obviously a great road trip. I think we were there in New York City for like 5 days this year. So we had a good chance. I got to see some of my buddies, and a lot of my friends from school live there too. So it was kind of just a good chance to reconnect with everyone. And really fun rink to play in, obviously. So it was a lot of fun when we beat them this year, which was pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is there a little bit of motivation when you play New York?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, like I try not to get too fired up about it.
Yeah, it's not personal.
No, no, of course not. And I find if I get too emotional about it, I usually don't play as well anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, it happens to so many guys, right? Like when it happens to you, it feels like you're the only one who's like had this experience, right? But then you talk to guys who've been traded 4 or 5 times, and it's like it's part of the business.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. And I think especially for me, like it was the best thing that could have happened to me, just to get into a fresh space and just have a little more space to grow.
Didn't you and Justin get traded in the same month?
Same day.
Same day.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, it was funny. I was we were in Hartford. I had just been sent down probably a week ago, and I was golfing with some of my buddies. It was the first day the golf courses opened, and we had like 2 or 3 days off. So he kind of had an idea he might get moved. Like he had been warned because obviously Colorado was going for it, and he was one of the younger prospects and everything. So he kind of had an idea it might be happening. And I remember him calling me. I don't know, maybe on like the 10th or 11th hole, and it was maybe an hour or two to the deadline. And he's like, yeah, I just got called off practice. Like I'm getting traded. I don't know where, whatever. And then he found out it was Montreal maybe like 30 minutes later. And I was like, that you know what? Like, that's actually pretty cool. Like, that's awesome. You get a new opportunity. He's like, I'm going right to the NHL. So he's excited about that. He's going to get to play some games and be up. And not that I was like jealous, but there's part of me that's like, it's obviously emotional to get traded, but like, it's exciting, you know, you get a new opportunity. And then a few more holes go by, and I think the deadline had actually closed, like, and, maybe it was like an hour after the deadline closed, and we were following along what the Rangers were doing, right? Because we were their farm team, and you could see all these guys getting traded, and you saw the Andrew Copp trade, and it just said for whatever it was, a few picks and a prospect, and none of us knew who the prospect was. Yeah. Of course, me not thinking it's going to be me, I had no idea. And then I was lining up a putt on the 17th hole, and the phone rang once, and we all started kind of looking at each other, and we're like, "Do you have your phone on you? Like, is yours on silent? Where's yours?" And we figured out it was mine, and I was like, oh, whatever, and I'll get it in a second. And then I started lining up the putt again, and then it rang again. And that's when they were like, oh, okay, you better go run to the phone. And it was the GM in New York, and I called him back. And, the trade calls are obviously pretty quick, right? You're getting moved, and thanks for everything. And Kevin Cheveldayoff, the GM in Winnipeg, is going to call you, so... It's always funny. Like Michael Larry was out there with me. He was in Hartford with me, so he was around for it. And then the next day, you're kind of packed up and moving and on to new opportunities. So it was pretty cool for me and Justin to at least kind of be able to lean on each other, right, and talk to each other. And obviously different experiences, because I think he knew he might have a higher chance of getting traded, and I didn't really. Yeah. I mean, there's always a chance, but I wasn't thinking about it as much heading into it. But like I said, I wouldn't have traded anything for the world. It was kind of a fun experience looking back on it, kind of funny story, and get to new opportunities. So,
did you make the putt?
I did not make the putt. I don't even think it was close. The boys actually made me go back and putt it because we were playing a match, and I was like, "You guys, like, what are we doing here, man?" My hands are like shaking, your mind's racing in a million directions, and then that was the end. I don't think I played the last hole.
You didn't play the last hole? You're like, I got to get out?
I might have hit a tee shot, but then all of a sudden, like, your agent's calling, my parents are calling, like, the GMs are calling, or the GM of, I went to the Manitoba Moose for about a week, so he was calling me, and then you're trying to get your travel tickets set, and
He's like, boys, I got to make par here. I'll give you a call back. Just let me 1 sec.
Yeah, there's a few priorities to take care of before I hit the shot. But yeah.
Wow, what a whirlwind of a couple years for you.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I feel like I've been all over the place, and two very different markets. You go from New York City to Winnipeg. It's probably about the biggest or the most drastic change you can find. But I mean, two special places to play. Like very different, but very unique, and both have these like amazing parts of them. So,
do you think it's helped your career getting the trade?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like just the opportunity. Even once I got to Winnipeg, I think I was with the Moose for about a week, and then got called up and finished the year in Winnipeg. So to get those, like, I think I played 15 games at the end of the year, and it was my most productive time in the NHL to that point. And I was playing a few games in the top 6, and just opportunities I hadn't necessarily got in New York. And it's different situations too, right? Like Winnipeg wasn't going to make the playoffs that year. New York was pushing, and they went on a great run. So I think it was good for me. And it's it's a lot different, but it's been a lot of fun, and I'm grateful for both the experiences.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great to hear. Moving into next year and this summer, what's your plan? Do you want to get stronger? Is it just to maintain what you have right now? When you leave, what do they call exit meetings?
Yeah.
What are they saying?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is obviously staying healthy. I think becomes a priority once you get here, and I always tested well in the fitness testing and things. So I don't think like getting stronger. You can always get stronger, and I will. But for me, it's more about like maintaining that. Maybe tightening up some of like the groin muscles, little things like that, so you can really stay healthy the whole year. And then, I mean, getting on the ice and getting faster is always gonna be the priority, right? Like, I'd like to work on some goal scoring stuff. I feel like I had tons of opportunities this year, and it's kind of the exciting part too, right? Like, I feel like I'm just kind of scratching the surface, and I have all this space I can grow. So, there's tons of things, but I'm up for contract. This is the first time I'm gonna have to get a new contract, so that's gonna be exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's gonna be cool and lots of fun. But this is the earliest in the summer, I guess, I've had the itch to be back on the ice and get back to Winnipeg. Yeah, there's always, it always comes faster than you expect, but with the way things ended this year, I think everybody was kind of like wanting to get back, wanting to jump right back into it. And, I'm already excited to get back and get going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you talk about goal scoring, I think of Kyle Connor put up 80 points this year.
Yeah.
And I had buddies that like played in the queue, and they played against McKinnon, or they played against who else, like Shaw. And you're just like, I always ask them, like, like what's so good about them, like on the ice? Like, how do they put those numbers up? And they always have like a similar answer. It's like, you don't even notice it. They just do everything correctly. It's not that they're an incredible goal scorer. They just know how to be in the right place, the right time, and they know how to put the puck in the net. How does it feel watching these guys like Scheifele and just putting up these points and being on the ice with them? Do you have the same answer? It's just they're in the right place, right time, and they do everything correctly?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. Like, these guys all see the game so well, right? And like, you look at some of these guys, and it seems like they're burying, half their goals, half of their 40 or 50 goals right around the net. And it's like, well, why can't I get that bounce?
Yeah.
But you realize, like, they're so smart and so cerebral. They know when to be in the right spot, and so that's obviously part of it. But then there's another part of, like, they have some freakishly amazing abilities. Like, when I think of KC or Kyle, it's his shot, like an insanely fast release where you might be watching him and you're not like, it's the hardest shot I've ever seen or anything. But just the way he goes from stick handling or creating the puck, and the next thing you know, like, he doesn't wind up anything. It's off his stick and it's gone. And he's beating goalies low. He's beating them high. He mixes up his shots. So, I mean, and Scheif's no different. Like, his catch and release is so smooth and so quick, and he hits his spots. And I could go through a list of my teammates, and it's like everybody has these abilities that you're like, that's awesome how he does that. Like, I need to watch and add that to my game. Or he does this very well. Like, I wonder how. And you trying to collect all the information, but it's just, it's cool watching them play. And we have a lot of guys like that, right? Like, Morrissey had an unbelievable season this year, and Hellebuck and goal. Like, these guys are just like, they've been in the league forever, and they've accomplished so much already, and it's just fun to watch them play and get to know them and try to pick those things up from their games.
Do you ever pinch yourself in practice or in a game? You're like, whoa, I'm here.
A little bit more at the start.
Yeah.
Like, now I feel like I'm a part of it, right? And like I said, I feel like this year, more than years in the past, I've kind of built a level of confidence where it's like I know what I have a better idea of what I'm capable of. Like I feel like I belong. I feel like I have all this space to grow. So that's the exciting part of it for me. Like and maybe that's why I have the itch to get back as soon as I did this summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun to be a part of, man. It's the whole experience. Like it is important for me to kind of step back and realize how much I'm enjoying it, and you know how lucky I am to be here, because there's lots of kids who want to get there, and you know, obviously my own work and everything has done it, but everyone around me too. Like it takes a ton of dedication from everybody, your family, your support crew and stuff.
Do you think stepping away from it, like going to Paris for a week or whatever it was, does that make you just appreciate it a bit more to get back on the ice? Because after all that hockey, like I love hockey, but I don't know, it just seems like a lot. Like, but in order for you to come back and say I want to get on the ice right now, just getting away helped that a bit?
Yeah, and I think most guys would say they do something of that nature, right? Where they step away for a little while, and gives you a little bit of time to reflect on your season, but also like you're not thinking about hockey constantly, because that's what it is a lot during the year, and especially when you finish in the playoffs, it's hockey 24/7 on your mind for the entirety of the run, and then a little bit after. So for me, it was good.
I know the atmosphere in Winnipeg for the playoffs, it's awesome. Vegas, I don't really know too much about. What was it like in Vegas? Do they have a fan base, or is it people on vacation that are just there?
They definitely have a fan base.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I remember going to a game in college. We had a tournament there. We went and watched a game, and I was kind of curious about that. Like, was it tourists who were coming in? But, it's chaotic down there in like the best way. It's like organized chaos. It's crazy loud, and it's like a Vegas show at a hockey game, right? Like you have the I don't know what you call them, the Vegas girls or whatever, behind the net in warm-ups, and they're big like feathered hats or whatever they are.
Come on.
It's crazy and
Distracting you.
it's pretty funny. Like it's they do a great job with like their in-game entertainment and everything. Like I don't know how to describe it best. That's obviously not my department, but it's just a fun place to play. And we would have liked to won a few more games there, but it was two unreal atmospheres. Like Winnipeg is obviously super unique and cool, and I think a lot of guys will say in the playoffs, guys who've had the opportunity to play a playoff series in Winnipeg say it's like one of the best in the league. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We got two good places to play. Would have liked a few more places to play, but
yeah, you got more hockey coming. So
yeah.
What's the difference between regular season and playoffs? Obviously, from the outside watching in, it's pretty intense, but from the inside looking out, what did you notice that changed within the room, within the guys, for playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, there's just less ice to operate with. Like, it seems like you have to make decisions quicker. There's guys take less risks, of course, like because it's playoffs, and I think there's a little bit of that risk reward balance, right? Where guys are taking less risks on offense, so there's less turnovers, so then you're kind of getting less opportunities offensively, and it mucks the game up a little bit. And then the physicality kind of adds to that too, right? Because everybody's finishing every hit, and it was fun at times. It was obviously frustrating at times for us. We lost the 4 in a row, but yeah, it's definitely a different game. Like you see some of the teams that are winning this year and the styles they're playing. Like it felt like at times when we were playing Vegas, we just weren't able to kind of produce the offense that we were used to producing. We weren't able to get to the net the way we wanted to. And I mean, they've continued to do that to some teams. You saw at the end of the game the other night. Like they're a good team to play or a hard team to play. And there's lots of other ones out there, right? You realize how, luck and just how razor thin the margins are and the difference between teams.
Razor thin, well put for my next question. And you talk about getting the puck to the net. When you got cut here on the right eye, like it was almost like the puck was covered, but yet still you just wanted that last little poke in. You just wanted, just in case it was loose, you wanted to put it in the net. Like it was crazy how it happened. Mm-hmm. It was that desperation there. Is that why? Like you were on your hand, you were on your knees trying to plug it through the puck.
Yeah.
Just last second, and then the goalie skate came up. Like, was that desperation you're talking about?
Yeah, well, I thought I should have scored on the shot that started the whole thing.
Did you shoot it?
I originally shot it, and then there was about a, 10 or 15 second scuffle.
Yes.
It was a beautiful pass from Lowry to me, and I couldn't get it off as a one-timer. And
friend of the show. Hey, Adam.
Yeah, there you go. He made a great pass to me, and I probably should have buried it. And then there was a scuffle around the net, and obviously it's playoffs. You just want to find a puck and find a way to get it in the net. And I mean, the rest of it's kind of unfortunate the way way everything happened. But well, I say unfortunate. I think the end result is probably the fortunate part for me, right? Like obviously I get cut, and sitting here today, everything's fine. So consider myself very lucky in that part of it. But it was definitely a chaotic sequence, and then even a couple of days after that was pretty chaotic.
You seem pretty, I don't want to say calm, but you left the ice in a demeanor that didn't look like you just got 57 or whatever stitches it was. Did you know what happened right away? Did you know the extent of it, I guess is what I'm asking?
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
You
didn't even go to the dressing room. You just kind of hug in the tunnel.
Yeah, I figured he could just put a Band-Aid on it or something, right? Like I had no idea that I was cut as bad as I was. And you're pumping on adrenaline, and I was lucky it was also at the start of the game, because the goalie's skate wasn't knocking on the post for too long, right? Like that's something that they said to me after. But if a goalie was pushing against the post and banging against the post, and his skate blade gets a little jagged, and so it was a fairly clean cut. And once the trainer saw me, he's like, "No, we can't put a Band-Aid over this, Morgan. Like we're going into the room." And they were going to send me to the hospital because they didn't want to stitch it up, and they actually had. I was lucky it was in Vegas. Again, lucky. I feel like I've used that word like 4 or 5 times, but they had plastic surgeons at the game, and that's not normal, I guess, in a lot of the NHL rinks. I don't even know if they were on call or if they were just there enjoying the game, but 2 of them came down and stitched me up, and they did a great job with it, and they also did it very quickly, which I appreciated. So I was lucky. My poor girlfriend and my parents were freaking out that I was going to have this terrible stitch job done on because it's a big scar. It's complicated to stitch, and the boys hooked me up down there. So it was a lucky break.
Was there any fight of them not letting you go back on, or did they say, yeah, as long as you wear a full cage, you're good to go?
They were fine with it. Like obviously it was kind of like, it wasn't right away before the stitching started. Like, yeah, we'll get you stitched up. We'll get you back out there. It was like, all right, we'll see how it feels. We'll see how the stitch job looks. We'll make sure it's not leaking. Cause even if it feels fine, if I'm leaking, you can't go back out there. So they kind of waited for the job to be done. And once everything looked good, and I mean, nothing, they obviously checked to make sure all my nerves and stuff were fine. And I mean, once we kind of clicked all the boxes and the cage was on, then it was just kind of get back out there and go try to play. So it was a little weird going back into the cage, but like I said, it was my first playoff game ever, so I was obviously pretty excited, and I didn't want to sit in the room and miss it. But
I was going to say, was there even a question in your head, like, I'm done for the day?
No, I mean, I don't even think I looked at it in the mirror till after the game and kind of realized what it actually looked like. And at that point, there was no really swelling in it yet, so I had a full field of vision, and they put the freezing in it or whatever they do so you don't really feel it too much. Yeah,
I saw the defenseman or forward from Vegas kind of like hug you, and he was like talking to you. What did he say? I forget who it was, but
it was that Chandler Stevenson.
What did he say to you?
I don't really remember. Like, I think he was just picking me up and being like, "Oh shit, like, are you okay?" But yeah, I mean, he was kind of right there to see it, and it was good that he sometimes in the heat of battle, things can be pretty intense and you don't realize what's happening, but he was good to recognize it and kind of at least give me a little bit of a helping hand to get out of there safely. So
how did you deal with all like the media attention afterwards? Did you just kind of laugh it off, or did you just kind of go as business as usual? Because you were getting, the American media was all over you.
Yeah, it was a little funny. Like it was more attention than I had ever gotten throughout the year. And I mean, I said to you earlier, like, it's not necessarily the thing I wanted to be, to go viral for whatever it was a few days, but they were all good about it. And I mean, it was 5 minutes of media here or there. And I think eventually they figured out I wasn't, especially in the middle of the series, like I didn't want to sit there and talk about taking a skate to the face for 7 days straight or whatever it was. So they were good about it. And yeah, it was good.
The girlfriend stayed with you? You guys are still together? She didn't leave you?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I got a good one.
There you go.
Yet, but she is all over me to get the scar cream and everything.
Oh, yeah. I bet she's like, come on, more.
Yeah, but she's been good. And yeah, it was nice. I had to text her and my parents before I went in to actually get the stitches, because I knew they'd be sitting at home watching the game freaking out. So they got the warning that it was like,
the things you don't even think of.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it unless one of the trainers said it to me before. He's like, "Do you want to text someone and make sure that they know you're okay?"
So you texted them before you went back on the ice?
I texted them before they even started stitching. It was just like,
no way.
Hey, I'm 100% okay. I'm just getting stitched up. I'm going to go back. And,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's actually good awareness from like the doctor to say that.
100%.
Because
I wouldn't have thought of it.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
What did Justin say? Did he chirp you?
I just saw him because he was over at World, so I just saw him for the first time there 2 days ago, and he was on the other side of it that you were. He's like, is it going to get any better? Is it going to look like that the rest of your life? I was like, I don't know, man. Like, doing my best with it. So, no, he was good. He obviously texted me and said he's glad I was okay, and then wanted a picture of it and all that stuff. So,
wanted a picture of it.
Of course he did. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I feel like it's great to have another brother going through the same thing as you are, just like coming into the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, when you guys both got traded, it's just nice to have someone to be like, oh, what's your experience in Montreal? Okay, well, what are you going through in Winnipeg? And just kind of bounce ideas off each other and different stories. It must be nice.
It is. You know, and like I said before, like sometimes when things are happening, or in my case, when I got traded, it kind of feels like you're the only one in the world who's experienced it, right? And then you remember there's thousands of other players who have, and you got a brother who's going through the same thing. So it is, I think, like the mental toll that it takes on you, whether it's like getting bumped up a line, pushed down a line, scratched, sent down, called up, traded, like all this stuff is, you know, it's always sitting in the back of your mind. So to have someone else to just kind of be able to talk to about it and realize, you know, no matter what, he's always going to be in my corner. I'm always going to be in his corner. And also to have someone who really understands it, right? Like as much as I'd sit there and talk to my girlfriend or complain to her about it, it's a different lifestyle, and having someone who's been in it, I'm just really lucky to have that.
Is that picture of you and him? That must be framed somewhere.
Yeah,
family fireplace.
My parents have it framed back home.
I knew they did. Yeah.
They're my dad was over the moon, especially, and my mom was just like, I think she was probably maybe a little more overwhelmed about everything going on that weekend, but it was fun, man. Like it was pretty exciting, and I know he beat us, so that wasn't great, but hopefully we have lots more battles to come.
Was there any opportunity to him on like a forecheck and you lit up a bit and you just like, I can't do it?
No, I wasn't out there with him very much. I know we had one face off at the end where it was actually, we were both on the wall, their D zone, our O zone, and the puck kind of squirted out towards both of us, and I snapped it back on him, so I got my centerman an extra win in the face off dog.
There you go.
But yeah, it's like, it was I wasn't out there a ton with them, which honestly is probably for the best. Like it's, especially the first game, it's just kind of avoid each other. And then, maybe I'll get a lick on them at some point. I certainly don't think I would have let up. So
not a boy. Well, it was summer training. Do you guys push each other?
Yeah, we do.
It's a brotherly love thing.
Yeah, and it's obviously not like I'm trying to hurt each other, but it's nice to, and even in the gym, whether it's weight or the golf course, he's pretty intense about his golf, so he's competitive with that. And I guess I am too. He would give me crap if I didn't say that, but it's nice to just have someone else kind of to push yourself against.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
This next question is for Jeff right here. He's a big Edmonton guy.
Yeah.
So how many times do you play Edmonton a year?
I think we played them 3 times last year.
Oh yeah, they're not in the same division.
No.
They are?
They're in the Pacific. We're in Central, but so same conference, different
just not
division.
Yeah. Can you give us a firsthand McDavid story, like on the ice, just seeing him, like some of like a movement that he does, and you're just like, that's not human.
It's just like for me, because we line matched his line at home, I think. So I was out there against him quite a bit, and I actually had some buddies in town, and they were laughing with me after the game about it, because I think my first shift I was out there for like 30 seconds and in the ozone, whatever, and then somehow he got the puck and just started taking off, and he kicked it out wide, and I ended up having to back check on him, and it's a full like dead sprint, like 100% as hard as you can back the ice, and then you get in the D zone, and I'm like gassed, I'm wiped, and he just keeps going and going and going, and it's funny, like you wouldn't think that one sprint going 100% all the way back to the ice is, but when you can feel him like pulling away a little bit, it strikes a different chord in you where a little bit of panic and you keep going. And it was my first shift in the game, I think, and I remember getting off and being like just wiped, like you're sucking wind.
Really?
And he does that stuff every shift. Like he's a special player, and not the funnest to play against, but always a good challenge. And we actually did pretty well. I think we were 2-1 against them this year, so
there you go.
We did decent enough against them to slow him down.
I was gonna say, if you're a coach from the opposing team, like you can't get upset if he does what he does. Like how are you? There's things that he does that you just can't contain. It doesn't matter who you are. It's just obviously you can do everything you can to prepare, but
it feels like there's a lot of guys in the league like that. Like obviously he's pretty special the way he does it, but that's the other thing I've realized. Just like every team seems like they have one of these guys who it's just like just freak athletes, and can do things that it seems like nobody else in the world can do, right? Like you think of obviously Nate McKinnon and Crosby and Marshy all from here. Like you see it in the summers where they're just doing stuff, and it's like I don't know how they do it. And all these guys, like I remember having a similar back check thing with Carlson, where it's like you try to finish a hit on him and he'll jump around you, and the next thing you know he's gone up the ice and you're chasing. So it's always a different challenge every night, but
I bet
it's fun.
Yeah, that's another way to look at it too. Every night there's a world-class player on the ice.
Yeah.
Every single night.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean we
Keeps you on
have
your
them in our,
toes.
absolutely, and we have them in our locker room, so it's the same thing in practice where it's like you're seeing it all around you.
Yeah. You're surrounded by the best of the best.
Yeah.
That must be a cool environment to wake up to every day.
Yeah, it is, and just seeing, you know, that this is kind of the level where you get to where it's like nobody's really showing up to camp out of shape. You know, everybody's dialed in with their eating and their sleeping, and like there's not like I almost think of it like room for error, right? Like you can't really be that far off, or else someone else comes in and replaces you. Like it's a business, so it's interesting. But I you know, you try to pick up on it from other guys, and they've done a good job teaching me and some of the other younger guys.
It's always an interesting conversation whenever we have NHL guys on here about like how it's a dream and you've obtained that dream and you're there and you want to enjoy it, but how you almost can't enjoy it because you need to focus on the discipline and the work of staying there. It's such an interesting balance of two sides. And every time we have, like I said, a pro guy on here, it's such a debate. It's like you want to enjoy it, but you just need to stay disciplined.
It's kind of about like finding a way to do both, right? Because, and for me, it's always been like, you know, I just want to be on an NHL team, and then you're on an NHL team and you might be getting scratched and playing every other game. And it's like, I just want to be in the lineup every night. It's like, I just want to be on the fourth line. I just want to be on the third line. I just want to be on the second line. I just want to be on the power play. I just want to do like, there's always like that other stepping stone of something to work towards. And I think it's a little bit of, you know, if that's the only thing you're ever focused on, it can be a little bit of a drag and just mentally draining, right? You're never happy with where you are. You want to get to somewhere else. But at the same time, I like there's good parts in that. You want to keep moving, you want to keep improving and all that stuff. But it's also important to realize, like, you know, the position I'm in is really cool. I've worked hard to accomplish this. I should enjoy it. I should be proud of myself. And to me, like, those are the two things that like I'm trying to balance a lot.
Yeah.
And some guys have it figured out, some guys don't. I think everybody's kind of working towards figuring that out. But it's like those are the things you never think about that pro hockey players kind of dealing with or thinking about. And I think it's like probably relevant thoughts for a lot of us.
It must have been a cool feeling, like not worrying about anything other than winning a cup.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to worry about getting sent down. You don't have to worry about being on the first line, second line. Like it's a rare thing, not even in like the corporate world where people get together and they work for one common goal. It's not even just hockey, just in regular life to get together and like work for something together. That must have been a cool feeling.
It is like, and you're kind of working on it the whole year, right? And dealing with being in a playoff spot, and then, you know, maybe you lose and a few other teams win, you're out of a playoff spot. And for us, we were on the bubble quite a bit this year, but to feel everyone like pulling towards that goal was awesome. Like it's a difficult thing, and it's rare, I think, in the world, like you said, to have everybody who, like, you know, at the end of the day, most guys, that is everybody's end goal. Everybody wants to get to that because you see how hard it is to win. You see guys who have played 1,000 games and haven't won one, haven't been to the cup final. Some guys who haven't been to the playoffs, and they've dedicated their lives to doing those things. So, yeah, it's fun, and especially come playoff time, like as intense as it is and as grueling as it is, it's like that's kind of what you've been waiting for the whole season, right? To kind of builds up to that. So
yeah,
fun.
It'll be a nice step next year for you. It's good that you're saying you're itching to get back. Do you think playoffs have something to do with that itch? It's like, ooh, you got to experience something that not even a lot of pro hockey players get to experience. Like, you got to experience playoffs.
Yeah.
Does that help with the itch?
Absolutely. That's like a big part of it, and, you know, probably more so about the way we went out and just like wanting to play more games. And it just kind of felt like I was just starting to get that taste, and then all of a sudden you're done and you're in the off season. So I feel like that's probably the overwhelming sentiment in our room. Everybody's excited to kind of push to get back there and hopefully go further this year, because, you know, I'm sure every team who gets knocked out is sitting there feeling like they could have done more if this puck had bounced our way. But, you know, we definitely feel like that. I think we lost in overtime in game 3 in double overtime, and you're sitting there wondering, like, maybe we're going into game 4 up 2-1, like, at home, what changes, you know? So it is, I mean, you drive yourself crazy thinking about all those things. At the end of the day, I think we just wanted to give ourselves a better chance to kind of win that series, and we obviously didn't.
Other than Justin, how much do you talk to like guys from other organizations about how their organization is run? Is that a common conversation that you have with other guys, or no?
Yeah, I think so. Like in the summers when you're around a lot of guys who have kind of been in other organizations, that's probably when you hear a lot about it. And some of it's like stupid stuff, like what is your hot tub, cold tub setup like, or how's your food at the rink like?
Hot dogs on the plane again.
Yeah. So you always, I mean, guys talk about it and complain because this team has this and this team doesn't, but we have this. And I mean, that's always how it is, right? Like that's one thing I've learned. People love to complain about something. Like you need something to complain about. So, but yeah, there's always guys talking about it, and I think we're lucky in Winnipeg. We're treated really well. So
nice.
One of the boys that I think it was right after I got called up, he's like, Morgan, there's no such thing as a bad day in the NHL. It's like, you know, it's a fantastic point. Whether you're playing, whether you're hurt, whether you're scratched, like you're in the NHL, you should enjoy it. So we're lucky.
It's a great way to look at it,
yeah,
for sure. And also coming home and having the group of guys you have here to like bounce knowledge off of. We had, I forget who we had on here the other day. I don't know, it was the other day. Might have been like last year. And who was it? Stan Henniger, I think it was. And he was an old pro, and going to play in other parts of the world, it was hard to get knowledge from other people. Let's say you're going up to Quebec, but back then the Q, there's not a lot of Maritimers up there, so you don't really know what's going on up in Gatineau.
Yeah,
you know, it's just such a luxury that everyone has all the knowledge of what's going on here in this part of the world. If I want to go play hockey in Europe, I know a guy that played over in Europe, he did this. It's just the knowledge is endless, but compared to back then.
Yeah. I mean, it's global sport nowadays, right? We got guys in the gym who are playing in, you know, Germany, Finland, Russia, like obviously North America and the American League and the NHL on the coast. So, you can kind of hear stories from guys, how they like it, what they wish was different, what they enjoyed about it. So it's pretty cool. And I mean, it's a wild journey. Like hockey's taken me and some of my friends or my family to places we probably never thought we would go. So
yeah. Do you care if I ask just about the contract? Like, do you let your agent handle it? Do you handle it? If you don't want to answer, you don't. I can edit it out.
No. It's I mean, fine. I wish I don't have any, like the agent kind of deals with it. And especially when the playoffs are going on, like I don't think there's a ton that you can even negotiate yet.
Yeah,
so I think it's like a month from now. If they want to negotiate with you, they send you your qualifying offer, and then you're either signing or start negotiating. So that's fine. I've been like, I'm in the dark with it. For the most part,
for like another month at least.
Yeah, and maybe they're negotiating behind the scenes or not. I have no idea. It's interesting. I have no idea like what to expect from the whole experience. So,
do you know how it works? There's so many rules. I don't even want to say laws, but like every time I get him or dudes to explain to me, there's so many interesting ways how a contract can work. Clauses. Yeah. Do you understand it all? You got to be honest.
I definitely follow it. Like I definitely don't understand it all.
Okay,
but generally speaking, like you know what someone else signs for, what kind of no move clause, no trade clause they have. It's all public information. You know what your teammates are getting and who's up for contract and stuff. So I follow in that space, but I think there's tons of stuff in the cap, like buyouts and overages and all that stuff. I have no idea what's going on with that stuff. But,
fair.
Yeah.
What do you look for in an agent in terms of like personality? Like what did you like about your agent?
Yeah, I think just having someone who you always know is in your corner, and someone who has some pull, like knowing who else they rep. And it's a fine balance between like, you don't want a guy who's got 10 million clients in the NHL. You don't want a guy who doesn't have any. And, I've worked with a few different ones at times in my career, and everyone's been great in like their own capacity. I've been lucky with all the guys I've worked with. So, it's a crazy world nowadays. You see kids trying to get agents when they're like friggin' 12 years old.
Oh, dude, we're just at the Boston Showdown, like 13-year-olds. Like,
again, that's all over my head and above my pay grade. But I work with names Wade Arnott, and works with me and Justin, obviously a few other guys across the league. And I guess this is the first contract he's had to negotiate for me.
So we'll see if he's good.
No, but the main thing is just having someone you can trust who's in your corner, I think, at all times, right? Because, things can probably, if it was a player going back and forth, you hear about guys who have sat through arbitration cases with their teams, and You don't want to sit there and hear a team talk about how bad you are at this or bad you are at that, right? So that's what the agent's for.
Good stuff. Yeah. One thing that you were surprised by the NHL life coming up, like, Jeff and I, we work with minor hockey, and we see these kids that have this dream to get to professional hockey that maybe don't have a clue of what might they, maybe something they experience. What's one thing this past year, I guess, just being like, whoa, okay, I didn't know things were like that here.
Yeah, I guess something on like the more difficult side, I think I touched on it a little bit, but like the mental grind of it, that's very difficult to deal with at times, right? Like you're on a 3-game skid and you're pushing for a playoff spot, and it's like it can be frustrating at times. Or if you're frustrated with your team's game, if you're frustrated with your own game, it's something like you won't sleep as well, you probably won't eat as well. Yeah. Like it kind of bleeds into the rest of your life. So finding a way to balance that is like extremely difficult, because I think a lot of people grow up and it's like, if I want to get to the NHL, hockey has to be my whole life and like the only part of my life. And to me, like, at least who I am and from what I've experienced with most guys I've played with now, is like that's counterproductive in most cases. And you see a lot about like cross training in sports with young kids, right? Like a lot of the kids who have made it and these freak athletes, like they didn't grow up just playing hockey. They grew up playing hockey plus soccer, basketball, lacrosse, whatever it is. Like they've done other things. So I mean, that's almost an anecdote with it, but I think it speaks to, what your life has to be like away from the rink. It's sometimes hard to go home and just sit on your thoughts about your bad game last night for 12 hours before you go to bed. You need to find something else to do productive with your time. So that's been something I've learned rather quickly, that you kind of need to be able to balance those things.
What's your thing to be?
Oh, I mean, on the road, I love going out to dinners with the guys, right? Like, and there was a point this year where I became responsible for making reservations a lot. So it'd be always like trying to find a good restaurant. I know it sounds stupid, like, but I'd spend tons of time like trying to find a good restaurant in a certain city, right? Or trying to learn how to cook a little bit more, whether it's like reading a book or playing video games or playing cards with your buddies, like just finding something to do where you can stay away from it. And, in the summer, it's like, I love getting out on the golf course as much as I can. So, there's tons of different stuff you can do, but just having something to take your mind off it, I think, is important.
Have you ever read a sports psychology book?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, my reading probably isn't where I'd like it to be as much, but
Cornell guy, I thought it would have been up there.
Yeah, it's I can do a better job. I'm trying to get back into it more, but yeah, I mean, there's tons of books out there, and I've read a few of them, and there's so many different rabbit holes you can kind of dive down.
Good stuff. Yeah. Prediction for the finals. You've played against both teams. What do you think?
God, I mean, like,
it's tough. I know. I'm sorry, but
yeah, I honestly haven't got to watch much of the hockey since I came home, just because the time zones killed me. But
yeah, it's tough because Florida, like, no one.
Yeah,
it just
and it's. I find I'm almost biased in these things, right? Because I'll base my anecdote off of the 2 times I played Florida, or I guess because we played them in playoffs, the 7 or 8 times I played Vegas. And we actually did well against Florida this year, but they've obviously turned a corner as of late and have figured it out. So, I mean, my most recent experience was playing Vegas, and they were extremely difficult to play against. I imagine it's going to be interesting too, because at least when we were playing Florida, it seemed like this kind of high-flying offensive, lots of chances, those types of things. And then Vegas was like this very good at suppressing chances, like uber deep team where they could roll 4 lines at you and 3 deep pairs. So I have no idea. I wish I had a better answer. I think it's going to be a long series, though. I know Florida's obviously whacked a few teams pretty quickly here, and Vegas, I think, has gone 5 or 6 in all their series, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. It goes 7.
Oh yeah. That'd be good for the NHL.
Yeah, I think so. So.
It's just interesting how, like, the places where they're playing the games, Vegas and Florida, not like you wouldn't think the biggest hockey beds, but yet Vegas is selling out.
Yeah.
Florida, it's just good for the NHL.
Yeah. It's funny. You see some people saying it might not be as good for like the escrow numbers or whatever, because I mean, if it's Toronto in there, I imagine there's going to be more people watching. But then the other side of it is exactly like you said. Like, these are growing markets where people are either just getting into hockey or learning about hockey, or maybe just starting to play hockey. So I think it's great. Like, it's different markets, but both fun places to play. Like, I love playing in Florida and in Vegas on the road. It's pretty cool. So it's going to be interesting to watch. And I don't think either of them ever won a cup in their franchise history. So It'd be pretty
No, they
cool.
haven't.
Someone's getting one.
That'll be sick.
Yeah.
What was your experience like in Arizona this year playing there?
We actually played the first. Yeah, we played the first game at the rink.
No way.
At Mullet, yeah. We because they were on the road for the first like month of the year, and we
Getting your dressing room ready.
Yeah,
the
but
away room.
it was remember they didn't have the away room set yet for the first few weeks they were there, so we saw all these pictures of them before we got there putting up like the curtains or whatever it was, and I think people were kind of making fun of it online, being like, look, there's no way this is acceptable, whatever. But we got there and it was like we had tons of space. It was like a little weird, like it was on their practice pad. They had no ice on it, and then but the stalls were great. There was a ton of area to warm up and stuff. So it was
no
fine.
bad day in the NHL.
No such thing. So it was fine. Like it was kind of felt like I was back in college.
Yeah,
it's 4,000 seats or whatever. But from what I understand, it's a fun place to watch a game right now because there's not any other rinks in the NHL where you can buy any ticket and you're like on top of the play. It feels like, right? Like you can hear the guys yelling at each other. You can hear people calling for pucks. Like you can hear everything. So I imagine it's a pretty cool place to watch.
I got a bachelor party coming up next year. I think we're going to Arizona,
Oh,
Scottsdale.
Yeah.
How far is Scottsdale from the rink?
I'm not 100% sure. I think
Okay.
everything there is between, like, from my understanding, like an hour kind of from each other between Scottsdale and Glendale and Tempe and all that.
Yeah,
I don't know the area super well, but
yeah, we'll see. It'd be nice. But yeah, that's an interesting perspective playing in front of 4,000. Like seeing Sid in a 4,000 seat arena. It's just
pretty cool.
It'd be nuts. McDavid too.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy.
You're up close with everything.
Yeah, for sure. Weird question. I want to see if you relate to it. When I walk into rinks around here, Centennial, Cole Harbor Place, Metro Center, Shabakto, whatever it may be, rinks have a feel, a smell. Do NHL rinks have a feel and like a smell and like a different feel every time you walk into one? Like, does MSG have a feel compared to going to play New Jersey down the road?
Yes and no. Like I feel like it's probably less specific or less unique than I would get like walking into the Centennial, you know? Like obviously these rinks probably have a little bit more character because they've been around longer. Like most of the NHL rinks are fairly new. But there's definitely like a certain vibe you get walking into a place, whether it's like brand spanking, like the Islanders rink there, UBS Arena is like this beautiful, brand new, everything it's spacious, there's tons of space and all that stuff. Versus wherever else you're going, I don't know. You can go into like maybe it's like Florida, a rink that's been there a little while, and you know what to expect. All the amenities are there that you would need, but it's just different vibe, different feel. You know what the crowds are going to be like. And I think I've played in every rink now. I got sick, so I didn't play in Buffalo this year, but now I've played in all the rinks, and you kind of know what to expect going into it.
Oh yeah,
but I would say like the character of the older rinks, the Centennials or the Forums of the world, they're a little more specific and unique.
yeah. I could walk into Centennial like in September and smell it and feel like a 12-year-old kid trying out.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like weird.
Yeah, for me it's like Centennial's a big one. The Forum when it's like sunny out and the sun's kind of coming through is always like a cool. That reminds me of like doing summer skates, and we spent a lot of time at some of the other rinks around here, as you can imagine. So
yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Did you play summer sports, or was it?
Yeah,
play lacrosse. Or?
Yeah, me and Justin played a ton. We were. I think soccer was the one I held on to for the longest, and I actually played in prep school in 11th and 12th grade as well.
Oh yeah.
Played basketball growing up. That was kind of at the same time as hockey season, and then soccer and lacrosse.
Oh yeah, because you went to Rockingham.
Yeah,
Mr. Fink. Yeah.
Exactly.
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. The more we get involved in the spring hockey, it's really cool. I love it. It's a lot of fun. But like I always go back to the reason I loved hockey growing up was because I just got to get away from it a little bit.
Yeah,
it was just nice to come back to it and work hard towards it.
100%. And like I said, I think there's lots of research now showing that like the cross sport training can be beneficial. You learn how to do different things and become more coordinated and all that stuff. So I think it always benefited me.
Yeah. One thing you're looking for. How much time are we at right now?
An hour and 5.
Oh, dude, my bad.
No, you're good.
Oh, sure.
I know what it be.
Okay. One thing you're just looking forward to this summer, outside of training.
Ooh.
And golf.
Yeah, those are always the two easy answers.
You got a new barbecue?
No new barbecue. I'm supposed to go back to New York and meet up with some of my Cornell buddies at some point, so I'm looking forward to that. It's always nice to see everybody, and especially now that guys are kind of off in their own direction, and some guys are still playing, some guys are working, some guys are getting married, whatever it is. So I'm looking forward to that weekend just to kind of catch up with everybody.
Good stuff. Well, Morgan, I want to thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate your time as always. I'm going to be watching you this year. I wish you the best. And like I said, always thanks for giving me your time in the summers.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate all your guys' support.
Everyone listening, stay safe. I always say work hard, but right now it's just about staying safe, finding the options for help right now, and we'll get through this. Everything's going to be fine. We're a strong community together, and we'll come out on the other end of this stronger. So thanks for listening as always. I hope you guys enjoyed. We're out. Peace.